Friends, today we are going to talk about the differences between spoken language and the written language. Let's begin with some introduction. You know that India has so many languages, about 400 or so, and they are spoken in various states of India. Some are included in the 8th schedule, 22 languages, and some are not included in 8th schedule. They are called non-scheduled languages. And the number of non-scheduled languages, including 3 foreign languages, Arabic, Persian, Pashto, we have 100 languages which are spoken by less than 10,000 persons each. And you know that all languages are not always written. Some languages still remain unwritten. For example, some tribal and minor languages which are spoken by fewer than say 400, 500 or say 1,000 number of speakers. For example, Tarao in Manipur, we have Dhimal in West Bengal. They are spoken by fewer number of people and they are not written. That means they do not have a script to write. We also know that speech is primary and writing is secondary. Why we say that? Because we know that the moment a child is born and she is say about 8 months old or 12 months old, then she starts acquiring a language. And when she acquires a language, she first speaks it. She does not start writing and reading immediately. So, all languages are spoken with the exception of dead languages such as Latin, which is only existing in written form, and only a subset of these languages are written. It can be said that spoken language is the natural or the primary medium of human language for the following reasons. And the reasons are: speech is prior to writing. As I said, that first we acquire language, spoken language, and then we learn to read and write. The writing system is always invented by its users to record speech. Speech plays a greater role than writing in the amount of information conveyed. And you must be aware, we know that most of the time we convey messages, we communicate in oral language, spoken language. We do not write each and everything. Speech is always the way in which every native speaker acquires her mother tongue. Speech is oral, thus making it possible to use intonation to emphasize words or phrases and express emotion. If you are familiar with some of the Tibeto-Burman languages spoken in Manipur, Nagaland, Mizoram and other northeastern states, you must have heard people using tone. Tone exists at the level of word. They differentiate meaning in word. If you raise your pitch, you get one meaning. If you lower your pitch, you get another meaning. For example, in Manipuri, there is a word oo. So, if you say oo, then it means one thing. If you say oo, it means another thing. So, one is blood, one meaning, and the other meaning is the thatch with which you cover your house. Writing has punctuation, but it can express only a small proportion of the features that intonation has. So, for example, if you are speaking Hindi, say we can say the same sentence with different intonation pattern. So, we can say अच्छा है, ये खाना अच्छा है, अच्छा खाना अच्छा था. So, same word अच्छा, 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 अच्छा. So, with intonation you can change the meaning, but these things cannot be reflected in the written language. So, written language has punctuation, comma, we have semicolon, full stop and so on. Speech is produced quickly and easily. This may result in many ungrammatical constructions, but rarely do they cause miscommunication. Why? Because if there is a misunderstanding, it can be easily corrected. But once you have written something, then it is very difficult to actually almost impossible to correct it once miscommunication or misunderstanding happens, because the writer and the reader are not located in the same place. Writing is much more deliberate, requiring planning and editing, and thus taking much more time to produce. We can define writing as the use of graphic marks to represent specific linguistic utterances. Writing is not language, but it does represent language, which is a complex system residing in our brain. So, we defined writing as the graphic marks. So, every language you will see those languages which are written, they use a number of letters of the alphabet if they are alphabetic. There are languages which are logographic, that means or they are syllabic. So, a consonant and a vowel will be written together like Chinese, or you have even some letters in Japanese, you have Cherokee. So, they always have consonant and vowel coming together. There are logographic languages, for example, Chinese, where each letter or each symbol represents one morpheme or a word. So, for that it is different system, but Indian languages are mostly alphabetic and some are syllabic. That means, they have like ka, kha, ga. So, always there will be a consonant combined with a vowel. So, some languages are like that. When we talk about language, sometimes we mean speech, spoken language, sometimes writing, that means written language. Of course, speech is spoken and heard, while writing is written and read, but there are many other differences which can be cited. This table that I am going to give you, the description is based on the research of William Bright, and the differences are as follows. Age. Speech goes back to human beginnings, perhaps a million years ago. Writing is relatively recent. However, it was first invented by the Sumerians in Mesopotamia around 3200 BC. Since then, the idea of writing has spread around the world and different writing systems have evolved in different parts of the world. Second is universality. Humans everywhere can speak. However, before the Sumerian invention, people were non-literate. Even now, there are many non-literate groups and many non-literate people in officially literate societies. So, this is what we mean by this, is that everybody can speak, but not everyone writes. That is the universal feature. The next one is acquisition. The acquisition of the ability to read and write is quite different from learning to speak and understand speech. Understanding speech, speaking a language happens naturally, but for writing we have to learn it in some place, either at home or in school, then only we can read and write. Normally, a considerable amount of explicit instruction is needed to acquire ability to read and write. People everywhere start speaking during the first 2 years of life. Many of the abilities involved are probably inborn rather than learned. Learning to write typically builds on learning to speak. So, the written language, as I mentioned in the beginning, depends on the spoken language. Level of structure. Speech consists of two types of basic units, phonemes or units of sound, which are themselves meaningless, and they are combined into morphemes, which are meaningful units. So, the phonemes in English, for example, sa, ka, u, la, they form the word school. So, if you look at this, you will see, so you have sa, ka, u and la, and we pronounce it as school. This is the pronunciation, and spelling is S-C-H-O-O-L, school. Next, we have some alphabetic scripts, and look at their structure. They also have almost all the alphabetic scripts will have a list of or a finite set of symbols, graphs, graphemes, and they will combine to produce larger morphemes, words, phrases, etc. So, Latin has A, B, H, K, L, you know A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, etc. So, written in capital letters and also in small letters. We have a script called Olchiki. Santali language is written in this script. So, there that is also alphabetic. You see they have A, Ka, Ma, E, Sa, Pa, Ra, and they combine these meaningless elements to produce meaningful elements. These are the examples of some other languages which are alphabetic. You have Assamese, Bengali, Devanagari, which is used for writing Hindi, Maithili, Sanskrit, Konkani, Marathi, and various other languages. Malayalam, we have Manipuri, which uses the Meitei Mayak script, Tamil. Interdependence. Most literate people can convey the same messages in either speech or writing, but speech typically conveys more explicit information than writing. Perso-Arabic script indicates consonants but often omits symbols for vowels. For example, if you look at the Urdu words, so they have even Arabic language which uses the Arabic script. So they will have consonants only, say ka, ta and ba. So they will have ka, they will have ta, they will have ba. Now they will insert vowels in between, say ka and ta and ba, and then produce many words. But the symbols for vowels are not written. This is true for Urdu also, which uses the Perso-Arabic script. So with ka ta ba you can create, so katab is to write, then with that you can create. So usually these vowel signs are not written. So this is kutub, plural of book, that is books. You can add other vowel symbols and you can get, this is kitab, e, this is not written. It's used only in children's literature or people when they are learning the Arabic script, that time only these are used, otherwise it's not used. So kitab, this is book. You can add maktab, see other consonants and vowels there, and you can get a new word. So maktab, the vowel symbols ma, ka, which doesn't have a, maktab, a, it is not written there. So maktab is office, for example. So that is different. The spoken and written forms of a given language tend to correspond on more levels and may influence each other, as when through is spelled thru, through. Conversely, in spelling pronunciation, people may come to pronounce the t in often. See, often, it has to be pronounced as often, but those who utter this word, they pronounce this word based on the spelling, they are not aware of it, so they will pronounce it as often, even though historically it had been lost. Retrievability. Until the invention of magnetic recording, speech could not be captured or preserved except by fallible memories and by writing. But writing can be preserved for millennia. Its permanence has made possible such human institutions as libraries, histories, schedules, dictionaries, menus, and what we generally call civilization. So this is what we mean by retrievability, is that if unless you record your speech through some magnetic device, electronic device, you cannot retrieve it. The moment some sentences are uttered, they rapidly fade. You can't recover it back. Once something is spoken, you can't get it back. But if the language is written, then you can always go back to it, you can always preserve it, and as I said, that is why the civilizations are possible. We have histories written, we have libraries created, dictionaries, encyclopedias written. Literary use. Non-literate societies have traditions, songs, rituals, legends, myths composed orally and preserved by memory. Such text may be called oral literature. So that means the non-literate societies will have oral literature. Everything exists orally, but writing can be, in contrast, writing permits what is more often called literature, bodies of text which are much larger and more codified than memory. Yet even in literate societies, dramatic performance and reading aloud remain important traditions. Next is prestige. Written language is associated with political and economic power, admired literature and educational institutions, all of which lend it high prestige. In literate societies, people often come to think of their written language as basic. They may regard speech as inferior. So because something is written, so language becomes visible. Otherwise, spoken language is abstract. We don't see the sounds coming out and the words, we don't see them. So they are invisible. So that's why many societies, they think that if something is written, so that only is language. So if they have a grammar written, if they have a dictionary written, they have some storybooks written, then they think they have a language. And if they have a different script, individual indigenous script, then also they think they have language, and that is more prestigious. If it's only spoken, then they don't attach so much of prestige to the spoken language. Nevertheless, writing can be perceived as colder or more impersonal than speech. So, when you write, it is considered as more cold, colder. So, it has no emotions because it lacks emotions, but speech has gestures, body language, then it has tone, intonation. So, it is more personal, that is why not so cold. Standardization. Spoken language has dialects or varieties, forms varying across geographical areas and social groups, but in societies that use writing, the needs of communication encourage moves towards a single written norm, codified by governmental, educational and literary institutions. The prestige of the written standard is then likely to influence speech as well. So, as you are aware, in your own state you must have seen that you go from place to place, say 10 kilometer, 5 kilometer away from your place, you will hear the same language is spoken differently. For example, you take example of Hindi. So, if you go to Bihar where Hindi is spoken, you will hear people not use ne, like instead of maine khana khaya, they will say hum khaye. So, this is a variety, a different form of Hindi. It is not substandard or anything, but spoken differently. You go to another area, say you go to Punjab, you go to Haryana, you will find Hindi is spoken differently because Punjabi has tone. So, if the Punjabi speakers use Hindi, then some rudiments of the tone will be there in their Hindi speech, and they have rules like if the first sound is voiced aspirate like bha, it becomes voiceless unaspirated. So, bhai will be pronounced as pai. So, what happens? That may reflect in their speech when they speak Hindi. You go to Bengal, when they speak Hindi, they will have pronunciation according to their habit. So, Bengali does not have three sas, sa, sha and sh. They have only one sh. So, maybe in their speech you will find that all sas are pronounced as sh. So, they will say sab pronounced as shab. So, there will be varieties in different areas where Hindi is spoken, and you must be familiar with languages like Bengali has different varieties, Chatgaiya, you will have Borishal, you will have Radhi, Barendri, you have Sylheti. In Assamese, you have different varieties, spoken in Kamrup is one, Barpeta area will have different variety of Assamese. Tamil, you will have different varieties spoken in different districts. So, spoken language will always have some varieties. So, forms will vary across geographical areas and also in social groups. So, a particular person belonging to a particular caste may speak a language differently. Okay? These things are possible, but when you write something, then all these forms, the varieties, they will write in a standard norm. For example, Bengali, as I mentioned, you have Sylheti spoken in the South Assam, and you have the standard Bengali spoken in, say, Calcutta area of West Bengal. But these people who live in South Assam, they speak one variety of Bengali, but when they write in university, college, textbooks, anything, newspaper written, then that is in a standard variety. The norm is that of the standard. So, and that is considered to be prestigious. Next is formality. Communication may be formal or casual. So, in literate societies, writing may be associated with formal style in speech and speech with casual. So, writing is formal and speech is casual. Formal and informal styles may be very distinct. For example, in Arabic there are two varieties. So, when they use two different varieties of Arabic, formally and informally. Tamil also, you have High Tamil and Low Tamil. So, two are used in different situations, formally and informally. We also have, as I gave already, the example of Hindi. So, these people in, say, Bihar, UP, Uttarakhand, Haryana, Punjab, Bengal, Assam, they speak different varieties of Hindi. There will be variations, but when they use it formally, when you have to write a novel, you have to write in newspaper, if you have to produce something on TV, then different variety of Hindi will be used. Change. Spoken language everywhere and always undergoes continual change, of which speakers may not be so aware. Written language, because of its permanence and standardization, shows less sweeping changes. The spelling of English is an example. So, it has not changed much in say 1500 years or 1800 years. It did change, but not so much. But the pronunciation had changed so much, say between the Chaucer's time and the modern times. I will give you some examples here. You can see we write in English, written English, the words will be, let us say you have words like fool, name, just let us take 2 examples, or maybe you have 5, take one more, house. Now, look at the pronunciation, the old English pronunciations of these words. So, actually fool, this we pronounce it now fool, but there was a time when it was pronounced as foal. That is why we have double O, it was O. We have house, once upon a time it was pronounced as whose. Name, this was pronounced as naam and naam. Then we have 5, this was pronounced as fever, which became later feeve, and now we pronounced, so fever, fever, we have come to feeve and then 5. So, E became I, 5. Nama, it became naam, and then A changed to A, name. Fool was foal, it became fool. Then we have house, this was pronounced as whose, and then in modern English it became house. So, see, but spelling did not change. How much the pronunciation has changed? Whose to house, foal to fool, naam or naam to name. We have fever or feeve to 5, but the written norm convention did not change. This is true for Hindi and many other languages as well. You know that the Indo-Aryan languages like Assamese, Bengali, Marathi, Gujarati, Sindhi, they have borrowed so many words from Sanskrit, the common stock they have, but they write it differently. You must have heard some Bengali friends speaking. So, they will write Lakshmi. There will be 4 symbols La, Ksha, Ma and E, but the pronunciation will be Lokhi. Okay. Similarly, in Hindi, you see if you have some exposure to Sanskrit, you must be aware, and this is what is done in English. We have yoga, 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 Rama, Krishna, Hanumana. So, words ended in a, but when Hindi borrowed it and there was some change. So, in Hindi, modern Hindi, there is not even one word that ends in a. So, you will not have griha, you will have grih, ghar, kamala, no, kamal, rama, no, ram. So, all words consonant ending, now they remain consonant ending. Earlier they had a. So, this is quite common, but the spelling does not change. Hindi, you must have observed, has only 2 sh or sa. So, one is dental sa as in sab, sat, sath, and the other one is palatal sh. So, you have vishesh, okay, or koshish. So, we have 2 sas, but see what happened when they borrowed words from Sanskrit. So, Sanskrit had 3 different sas. So, dental sa, then we had palatal sh and retroflex sh. So, sa, sarva, then we had sh as in Shiva, then the third one sh as in Vish or Dhanush. So, but when Hindi borrowed these words, what happened? They retained the retroflex sh in written form, but the spoken form was lost. So, that is why we get, so we will write in Hindi you will see, so they will write wish, but actually they are pronouncing it as if this is wish, let us say, or, so what happened? We had in Sanskrit sh, but we kept it in writing, but in spoken Hindi this sound is lost. Similarly, in many varieties of Hindi you will find we have ra, retroflex ra, and we have na, dental na, but in many varieties of Hindi, or people who are not so conscious about their Hindi, the difference is lost. So, instead of ra and na, they will say na and na. So, gan will become gun. Now, let us talk about another important aspect. Generally, people think that once you have a spoken language and you start writing it, then so every language must have a separate script, but that is not true at all. There is no relationship, no intrinsic relationship. Not necessary that every language must have a separate distinct script or writing system. And I have given example that it is possible that one language can be written in many languages and vice versa. Many languages can be written in one script, and we have examples in India. You have languages of Nagaland, Ao, Angami, Lotha, Phom, Arunachal Pradesh languages, Mishmi, Mishing. Then we have languages from Manipur, Paite, Mao, Maram, Kom. We have languages from Meghalaya, Khasi, Garo, Mizoram language, Mizo, Sangtam again from Nagaland, Wancho from Arunachal Pradesh, Waifei from Manipur, Zemi from Assam, Manipur, and also some Western languages like Finnish and English. They all use the Roman script. So, see, many languages, but only one script, one orthography, only one writing system, and the vice versa is also true. So, Santali, we have one example in India. So, they once upon a time, like until let us say 100 years ago, Santali was written in Devanagari, Odia, Bengali and Roman. But when in the 20th century, the script was invented by one scholar called Raghunath Murmu, Old Chiki or Old Semeth. So, when that script came, and now there was a movement and people consciously tried to replace other scripts and use only Old Chiki. But still in Jharkhand, Santali is written in Devanagari, and partly in Odisha, it is written in Odia script and Old Chiki in all the states. Now, Sanskrit is very old and classical language that used to be written in various scripts. So, in Bengal something was written in Sanskrit language. The sentences will be, the spoken form will be that of spoken Sanskrit, but when they wrote it, so it was written in Assamese script, Bengali script, Tamil Nadu Tamil script, Devanagari in many states, and it was even written in Khmer, the language of Cambodia, and many other Western scripts, including Arabic also in our neighboring countries. So, it is not necessary that one language will have only one script or writing system, as I gave you example. Then it is not also necessary that every written letter or symbol should represent one sound. So, one sound, one letter or in the alphabet, it is not necessary. And we have so many examples in India where you can see even in Western countries the languages spoken in other parts of the world. So, it is not necessary that every sound has to be represented in the writing system. I will give you quickly one example, and it is not necessary if you think that if a language has fewer sounds and fewer letters in the alphabet, they cannot express themselves, that is wrong. We have a very good example of Tamil in India, which is very old, as old as Sanskrit or maybe older. So, it has very few letters in the alphabet, but they could manage to write so much for centuries. So, let us take this example from Tamil. So, now see, we have in Tamil you have pa, and then see in Devanagari you must have seen we have series of letters like ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, ta, tha, da, dha, na, according to the places where they are articulated. So, in Tamil in written script you will have pa and then ma in that series. You will have ka and then you have nga, okay, or without that also is okay. You will have ta and then you have na. There are two nas, so that is not necessary for us. Now, so see what is happening. So, you will think that Tamil has no ba as if, or Tamil has no ga, but that is not true. They have the rules for that. So, you write with fewer number of letters of the alphabet, but you can use it for every spoken sound in your language. So, you might think that if there are fewer symbols in the orthography in written language, they are not capable of representing all the sounds in a language, but that is not true. The rules will tell the native speaker that which sound, which letter represents which sound, and they can work perfectly all right. As I was going to give you example of Tamil, so you will have, for example, in there, so you will have ka, and then you have nga, okay, and then you have say let us say pa, you have pa, then you have ma, you have ta, and then you have na. So, see, there is no tha or the here, but look at their writing. When they write words, what will happen? So, you will write, say for example, this is for without consonant, without vowel sound. So, now pa, a, ma, pa and u. So, a person who does not know Tamil will pronounce it as pampu, but a Tamil speaker will not pronounce it as pampu. So, they will pronounce it as pambu. So, this pa also represents ba. Similarly, you will have say ta. So, if it comes, or let us say in the middle part between say voiced segments like vowels, between vowels, or ma and a, ma and u. So, ta will also represent the. So, what is happening? They have fewer letters, but they can work very well. And look at another example from Urdu, and the vice versa is also true. What happens? Sometimes a language will have more letters in the alphabet, more number of graphemes, but they do not represent individual sounds. English is a classic example. So, in English, for example, you know that GH can also be F, fur, F can represent fur. Similarly, we can have TI, say in nation, so we have TIO, that is sh, TI is sh. In fish, we have SH, and that also is sh. So, many letters, but one sound. Urdu is another good example. They borrowed words from Arabic and Persian. So, they borrowed the script also, the orthographic system. So, what happened? Arabic had different sirs. So, let us say you had sir, then Arabic, Perso-Arabic script also has sir, and they had say another sir. Now, in many words in Urdu, you will find that these three letters are used, but the Urdu speakers will pronounce all three sounds as sir. So, if you have, so this is sub, then you can also have, let us say, so asar, sub is all, asar is effect, and they will have, let us say, subah, subah, morning. So, all these three letters are pronounced sir. So, there are many letters in Perso-Arabic alphabet where you will z is another example. So, zor will have one kind of z, and zulm will have, atrocity will have another kind of c. So, written form is z, z, and z as in zor, strength or force, and zulm in atrocity. So, two letters, but one sound in Urdu. So, this you have to keep in mind. I have given another example. So, you will see that a person, as I already said in the beginning, that the writing represents spoken language. So, even if you know a script, but if you do not know the language, you cannot understand the meaning of it. So, this example says that thing only. So, these words have been borrowed from Sanskrit. So, like Shodash became Shola, Vishesh, Vish, Vinash and Nach. Now, see how they vary in different languages, Assamese, Bengali and Maithili. So, a person, if you are not familiar with these three languages, if you do not know these languages, but if you know these scripts, so you will be mispronouncing it. So, in Assamese, for example, the word Sanskrit word Vishesh is pronounced as Bikhesh, but you will be pronouncing it because you do not know the language, Assamese language, as Vishesh. Similarly, Vesh, Sanskrit word, but in Assamese it became Beh, or in Maithili it became Bek. So, if you go by the written system, then you will be mispronouncing it, there will be miscommunication, misunderstanding. So, the written language depends on the spoken language. If you know a language, how to speak it, understand it, and then if you learn the script, then it is easier for you to understand the language. You can even read it, write it, and so on. So, friends, we learnt in this lesson that there is no one-to-one correspondence between a language and a script. So, one language can be written in many languages, many scripts, and many languages can be written in one script. Then it is not also necessary that there has to be one letter for one sound. Each sound cannot be represented by different letter in language, and also the written language cannot represent many of the features of the spoken language like tone, intonation. These things cannot be represented in written language. We will talk about some other topic next time. This is all for today. Thank you.